Hello, I'm Congressman Brad Sherman from California's best named city, Sherman Oaks. Iran is a culture that goes back well over 4,000 years. It gave the world the first human rights document, the Cyrus Cylinder. So it's a travesty that Iranians continue to live under an oppressive, undemocratic regime, a regime that murders its own people and uses international aggression to distract its people from the regime's venal corruption. This must end. I'm the chief Democratic sponsor of House Resolution 118, expressing support for the Iranian people's desire for a democratic, secular, non-nuclear Republic of Iran, and condemning violations of human rights and state-sponsored terrorism by the Iranian government. Res. 118 highlights the recent arrest of an Iranian diplomat in Belgium for his role in conspiring to commit murder as part of a plot to bomb the Free Iran gathering in Paris in 2018. His conviction demonstrates the willingness of the regime to use its diplomats and its embassies to commit acts of terror around the world, particularly against United States citizens and officials and Iranian people. I have been dedicated to helping those who are trying to achieve democracy in Iran, whether it be meetings with the Prime Minister of Albania to make sure that Iranian exiles there are protected, or whether it be to fight against the hostage-taking by the Iranian regime. I spoke at the Free Iran rally outside the State Department in 2019 to stand in solidarity with the brave Iranians fighting for a new chapter in Iran's long history. In November of 2019, some 1,500 people were killed during 2 weeks of unrest, and thousands more were detained during these protests for democracy. According to a September 2nd, 2020 Amnesty International report, the detained protesters were subject to widespread torture, including beatings, floggings, electric shock, stress positions, mock executions, waterboarding, sexual violence, forced administration of chemical substances, and a deprivation of medical care. Last Congress, the House of Representatives passed House Resolution 752, supporting the rights of the people of Iran to free expression and condemning the Iranian regime for its crackdown on legitimate protests. The Iranian regime has also arbitrarily and brutally suppressed ethnic and religious minorities, including Iranian Kurds, Baluchis, Arabs, as well as Christians, Jews, Baha'is, Zoroastrians, and even Sunni Muslims. The regime has deprived them of their basic human rights solely because of their ethnicity or their beliefs. Res. 118 calls for the United Nations Security Council to work with the U.S. and partners and allies to condemn the ongoing human rights violations perpetrated by the Iranian regime and establish a mechanism by which the United Nations Security Council can monitor human rights violations. I also want to mention the important work of Madam Rajavi to promote democracy, women's rights, and minority rights in Iran. Democracy and equality are not just principles we hold dear, they are rights that belong to people, and we hold that these rights belong to the people of Iran. We are all familiar with the Iranian government's support for terrorism. Iran supports the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas, and that's just the terrorist organizations that begin with the letter H. President Obama, President Trump, and now the Biden administration have identified Iran as the #1 state sponsor of terror, a leading force behind Assad's murders in Syria. Res. 118 condemns Iran's state-sponsored terrorism at home and abroad and recognizes the rights of the Iranian people and their struggle to establish a democratic, secular, and non-nuclear Republic of Iran. Res. 118 already has 222 bipartisan co-sponsors, and we're counting. I'm honored to be the chief Democratic proponent of that resolution. With such overwhelming support, Congress sends a strong message to Iran that the United States does not tolerate the ongoing human rights violations perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Thank you for your work to bring freedom, democracy, and liberty to the people of Iran. Thank you very much. I'm Congressman Brad Sherman.